Good evening and welcome back to the Voices of the Vic podcast. I'm your host, Ben Ayton, and tonight I'm joined by Joe Thomas. This evening we'll be discussing Watford's 2-2 away draw at Wrexham, and just like a Disney Plus drama, it had twists, turns, heroes, and a heartbreaking ending deep into added on time. The Hornets fell behind early on, but fought back 3 goals from Offa Mama and Dumbia to flip the script and take the lead, only for the 92nd minute equaliser to rip up the ending and leave Watford with the share of the points. Coming after a frustrating 1-1 draw at home to Sheffield Wednesday, where the Hornets again went behind, had over 20 shots, missed a penalty, and only scored deep into added on time. It really begs the question how clinical and composed this Watford side actually is. So there's plenty to dive into tonight. But before we get stuck in, I'll go to our co-host, Joe, my right-hand man. Joe, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Apart from the result yesterday, I kind of, because I'd planned to see Santa with the girls yesterday. The game was kind of at the back of kind of my mind a little bit. Obviously, as I said, I watched the highlights, but I tried not to kind of get roped into it. Obviously, there was a lot of chat in our group yesterday with Mike and Cam and stuff. Cam was watching it. Mike was following it where he was in Birmingham. So it kind of then got me hooked a little bit while we were doing like Santa-y bits, and like there's me standing like there's loads of kids all excited to see Santa, and then I see the 2-2 pop up and I'm going, but yeah, no, as you said, a really disappointing week. Really, obviously it was a good result against Norwich last week to come back, but yeah, the game on Tuesday was I was in a rage for about 48 hours after, I think, from that. It really, really, really wound me up. Like I found myself getting on the train and getting into London and going home. Obviously, as you know, for midweek games, I don't get in till like, I think again, this time I got in just after 3. And I just think, like, what kind of effort? Like, why should I be putting that kind of effort in when there was absolutely no effort on the pitch? But yeah, obviously, to go to Wrexham, if someone had said to me, you'll get a point there, it is a tough place to go. They've got a good side. So, apart from the fact that we conceded at the end, it's probably a good result and sounded like a fair result overall.
Yeah, I think overall, when you look at it, it probably is a fair result. But overall, Joe, was it a point gained or 2 points dropped?
Well, if you kind of think about it, if someone had said to me, you could have lost on Tuesday and Semedo not score that goal, and we wouldn't have then conceded the goal at the end, obviously we'd have been a point better off because we'd have got 3 points in the 2 games rather than 2. So if you kind of look at it that way, then yeah, I mean, I don't know. We just in key situations we're still not good enough, and that's what bothers me most. Is like start of games, end of games, we just switch off. Like we're not. We need to be seeing out games, and we need to be finishing teams off. Like there's been so many times in games. We take these 3 home games that we've had against Bristol City, Preston, and Sheffield Wednesday, and we should have won all of them. Like we've had probably over the course of the 3 games, I'm probably going to say between 50 and 60 shots on goal, and we've scored 3 goals. Like it's poor. Like we have got to be better in front of goal, in a more clinical, and we've got to tighten up at the back. And we've got to be switched on for the first 20 minutes of games, and when it gets to the last 5-10 minutes of games, we've got to be switched on. That's what wins teams promotion. That's what won us promotion before. We're not going to be, as Mike said yesterday in our chat, that gap's widening up now between teams outside the playoffs and the teams inside the playoffs. And I look at it and I think it's frustrating because those 3 home games that I mentioned there, we should have got 6 points. We didn't. An additional 6 points, on top of the 3 that we got. So we should have got 9. And we'd be in a far better place and probably just like loitering within the playoffs. But as it is, we're not going to be in there probably at Christmas. And, we've got a really tough game next week against a Stoke side that has been a bit out of sorts lately. Got a good win yesterday, and then we've got 2 tough away games after that. Norwich are picking up points at home now. We could have probably done with playing them in the middle of September, middle of October. As it is, we're not. And Leicester are starting to play better as well. So, it could be a bit of a miserable end to the year for Watford, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of not making the most out of the games where we have dropped points. Like we should have done better against Bristol City, like you said, against Preston as well. But the most damaging one for me was the Sheffield Wednesday. You can't come out of that game with only a point, and we nearly came out of the game with absolutely nothing. And it's become a burden for Watford. I feel like we try to walk it into the back of the net a bit too much, especially at home. I feel like we're just trying to play like Arsenal did under Arsene Wenger, and you're trying to do the cut back across the box and just little tap-ins. But that's not happening. And sometimes, Joe, I feel like you just need to take a pop. And we saw that yesterday with Dumbia taking the pop to get us back into the game. And I just feel like we need to try and do more attempts like that, because get the keeper flat-footed, it's going to go into the back of the net if it ends up taking a deflection. So do you think that Watford maybe need to change their approach in and around the box and not try to score that perfect goal each time?
Yeah, 100%. It's one thing I pointed out at Sheffield Wednesday. I got really frustrated is, people trying these fancy flicks. Like, I don't get it. Like, we weren't in a position to be trying like little intricate things with the football. Just keep it basic, pass the ball, and like you say, when we get close to goal, just have a pop. I don't care if the keeper fumbles it, and it's I don't know if you remember the goal against Oxford that Bio scored last year. That he had, what was it, 3 bites of the cherry? It was a bit. Yeah. It was like awful, but it went in the end, and we got the goal and we won the game. I don't care if we score like goals like that. We need to be, putting pressure on opposition keepers and making them make saves. If I kind of think of other people that have been having pops from distance, you can't really think of too many, but obviously Dumbia against Middlesbrough springs to mind. He had a pop there as well. Obviously, it took the deflection off Kurangard and went in, but he still had a pop from distance. Like, Dumbia doesn't seem to be afraid to shoot from when he gets that. He's not doing it when he's like got a player running towards him and being closed down, but when he's got that open space and he's got just a bit of a sight at goal, he doesn't seem to be afraid to shoot. And I just think other people need to be like that as well.
No, I agree. And do you think with Watford being 2-1 up against Wrexham yesterday into the 90th minute, Watford really should be seeing out that game?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think we've got the quality to be seeing out games like that. Maybe, you know what, I understand why people make the decision, the managers make these decisions to bring on defenders and swap things over at the end and make those substitutions. But it seemed to be working until those substitutions were made. And then obviously we've got people coming on. You probably don't really know too much of where you're kind of just sent on to defend, aren't you? You've not really got a job as such. Like, if you're coming on in the 60th minute, like, for example, Caben, he's probably been told he's got to mark Kiefer Moore or whoever's, up front and told to do a job. In the 90th minute, the manager's probably going, just make sure you just see this out. So people like that coming on, they're just loitering in the box, not really doing much. And then, obviously we'll talk about it in a little while, probably a bit more. But that same situation from the goal happened earlier, and we got away with it. Selvik made a double save. The same situation happens again. No one goes out to the edge of the box. It's another situation, and it's really frustrating because we're conceding far too many goals like it. Birmingham, Sheffield Wednesday, Wrexham now, where people are getting balls on the edge of the box and no one is going out to close the player down. We're just giving someone a free hit at goal, have a shot, see what happens. And unfortunately, they're all going in.
And do you feel like with the late goals that have been going in, okay, Watford have done a lot ourselves scoring late goals, but looking at yesterday's game management probably comes into it a little bit. Do you feel that's game management is going down to, well, the lack of game management is down to Javi Gracia, or do you think it's down to maybe the inexperienced players that Watford maybe got? And look, they're a talented bunch, and they're going to make mistakes, but I know the only way you're going to get better is with the experience. But do you feel like sometimes maybe with the younger squad, they haven't really got that experience to maybe see out games?
Yeah, I do
Or is
think
it
that.
onto the manager's head?
I mean, yeah, partly, but I do think it is important. This is why we said when we're building a squad in the summer, it's great to
Mm,
have all these young players like Othman Mama. We've got to just say he is a fantastic footballer. There is no doubt about that. He's a really, really
yeah.
talented footballer. You can build a team of youngsters. You can, you could have a team of superstars. But at the end of the day, this league, as I was talking about this last week, it's probably the fifth toughest league in the world, I'd say, probably, like most competitive. It's probably
Yeah.
it's more competitive than the French league. You need people with experience in the championship. It's important, for me. You need those sort of players. Yes, all right, we've got Musa Sissoko. He's not really playing anymore. We need someone or one or two players that have just got that championship experience. Like I mentioned in our chat the other day about Connolly and Watson. That year we got promoted in 2015. They were important. They were good, experienced championship players, and they brought a lot to that Watford side. We need a couple of players like that are just, when we're in difficult situations in games, they're there to be able to put their arm around someone who's a bit younger and just give them that bit of advice, that bit of encouragement. If a goal goes in, don't let your head drop, keep going. And that's why we kept
Mm,
going in those games back then, because we had players like that were there to, there were countless times where, we'd go behind and you'd see Ben Watson just like, come on, lads, like in the middle of the pitch. We've got nobody like that now. It's a completely different feel of a squad, and completely different, I'd say, work ethic. I don't think that these players are as tough, I'd say, as what we used to have.
mm,
Um, we need to get a bit of a backbone within this
yeah.
squad, and we need to get it fast.
I think a good example of clubs bringing in championship experience. I don't think you can look any further than what Wrexham have done in the summer transfer window. You just looking at their team that they lined up with yesterday, they just lots of championship experience across that team, and that's going to help you out massively. And that's why they're 14th in the championship this season, and people maybe write them off at the start of the season, going, "Oh, they'll go straight back down." But they've recruited superbly well. They've got Blackburn's old captain Dominic Heim at the back. They've got Callum Doyle, who's played maybe 3-4 seasons championship football now, terrific defender. You've obviously got Matty James, former Leicester City midfielder. Lewis O'Brien, we all know about his quality. James McLean, okay, we all can't really stand him, but great experience and a shithousery. Then you just look at the two strikers as well, Kiefer Moore and Josh Windass. Like that's how you recruit the championship experience. And I feel like a couple of those additions into like the squad that we've got now would help us out massively. But obviously we've gone down a different pathway this summer. Next question I had for you, Joe, was, again, it's a familiar pattern now for Watford, falling behind yet again. What I know we spoke about this a little bit outside the Red Squirrel when we did that face-to-face podcast last week, but what do you think it's maybe down to the going behind again? Is it down to maybe a lack of intensity from kickoff, or do you think it's maybe a tactical issue?
Um, I don't really know. I can't really put my finger on it, to be honest. You know, I remember when we were. Was it last season? Was it last season when we were conceding goals within the first 5 minutes?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
That was the problem, and now the problem this season is just the fact that we're just conceding not
first.
so early. It's just conceding first. Yeah. Um, I don't really know what it is, to be honest, because I've been fortunate enough to go to the last few home games, and I've kind of watched people from the offset. I don't know. I don't know if you'd agree with this. One of the things that has concerned me of late, and this was the case
Mm,
yesterday as well, and I noticed this with the first goal, is Bowler was completely out of position for that first goal yesterday. The ball's come over the top. It was a dink chip over the top. There was no pace on it. It sat up nicely for Windass to put in the back of the net. But when you watch it, Bowler's like tracking back. I've noticed that Ngakia and Bowler from the start of games, I don't know if this is what Javi's telling them to do, but they seem to be pushing. I don't know if they're pushing up too much at the start of games and we're just giving people too much time going down the wings. I don't
mhm,
really know what it is, if I'm being completely honest. It's not good enough. And, you know, obviously Ngakia wasn't good at the start on Tuesday, but I thought he was excellent probably from about the 30th minute onwards. But we need defenders and our defence to be switched on from the start.
mm.
And it's the same with our centre backs as well. I mean, you look at. I mean, I've got to briefly mention. It was mentioned at the start. Matty Pollock has has been excellent. I think for Watford for the last few weeks. I really think he's stepped up, and I think
Yeah.
he's improved a lot. I do think that other centre back position is still up for grabs. I still don't think that for me there's someone who's cementing their place. I can see somebody. I think it was Mark Schofield, as mentioned here, just saying he's been so poor, brings him on at right back. Yeah, Caben for me, I think he needs some time out of the team. Like there was those 3 games where he was playing for Watford where he was absolutely appalling. I obviously, the change yesterday was forced, wasn't it? Ngaki apparently was unwell, which is why Bankwer came in. But I'd like to see a Bankwer at centre back with Pollock. I think that that would be a good centre back pairing, and I can't see why it's not been given an opportunity for me. I know Aline's come in. He's been. I don't know. What do you think of Aline and how he's been? I think he's been okay at times, but is it potentially due to a lack of game time where he looks a bit out of sorts at times?
I think it's match consistency for him. I think he was doing incredibly well under Paolo Pezzolano. And then when Javi took over, I think there was an international break. He went away, man of the match for England under 21s or under 20s, whatever it was. And he came back and he couldn't get a look in. He wasn't even in the match day squad away at Coventry. A few games after that, he wasn't involved. Then he found his spot on the bench and he's slowly being integrated into the team. So I think it's just getting his consistency back up. I like him as a defender. I think he's really good. I think he's strong for quite a small built guy. I think he's quite strong. He's very good in the air, excellent on the ball as well. Can drive the ball, get us up the pitch. I think there's a lot of potential with him, and I want to see a bit more consistency from him now. I like that he's had obviously 2 starts now. He came on at half time against Norwich City as well. So he's played a lot in the last 3 games. So I'd like to see him maybe play again against Stoke. But then you throw James the Banquer into the mix, who excellent job yesterday. In Jeremy Ngakie's space, but would you look to maybe move him over to the centre? At the moment, Joe, I think it's between Ngakia and not Ngakia, James Abankwah and Max Elaine for that last centre spots position because Matty Pollock's he's earned the spot next to him. It's just both of them fighting out for that remaining spot.
Yeah, I think Mark's got it right within the in the chat there. And Gakia, Pollock, the banker, and Bowler, I think need to be
Mm.
the 4 at the back. And it's and Ian's mentioned about foremost. Is it foremost Mendy?
Yeah,
I just that's just a farce in itself. there's two farces actually, I think, for me, this transfer window, and that have completely been wasted. It's him for a start. The fact that the club have come out and they've said that he was our number one target in the summer, and that they were really wanting to get him in. They worked hard to get him in. They got him in. They said that we were going to be spending 6.75 million euros on a permanent transfer if the transfer worked out. We've but I don't think we've seen him past 90 minutes in a Watford shirt yet, or even an hour worth of minutes in a Watford shirt yet. I think that's diabolical. The other one is Caleb Wiley. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm just
Yeah,
I can't understand why the club have gone in and said, we'll have you back for the season. They reckoned that he was going to be back. I think he came back for what, 2 games, and then he's got injured again. I think the club, as much as I like him, because I do really like him and I do think he's good enough, and I do think a fit Caleb Wiley and one that's playing his best is probably better than Mark Bowler.
do you really?
Yeah, I do think he is better when he's playing his best football, because he gets into good areas like Bowler does. He gets in good areas, like good attacking play. Maybe not great at the back, but he is good going forward. I think the club need to cut that move in January and just send him back to Chelsea and get Mark Bowler some proper cover in January, because I don't really want to be waiting around for someone that may or may not come back in March, and then we've got him for 2 months at the end of the season again, like we did last year. It's pathetic. It really is pathetic. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of resource, and it's a waste of a transfer.
We're very lucky that we're not having to maybe bring in another left back now. Mark Bowler's performance has been outstanding, and his performance has been that good, and he hasn't had anyone breathing down his back of his neck wanting that jersey either. He's been outstanding. He's up there with probably one of my player of the seasons this year. It's really outstanding, and I think I prefer him over Wiley. I think he's just top draw. I think he's got a little bit of work to do, maybe defensively sometimes, but I really like him. I think as a person, he's really down to earth and genuine and humble, and I think that's what you want out of a pro. And he always gives his all. So yeah, I'm here for Mark Bowler. But yeah, I agree with you, Joe. Why are we wasting money, throwing it down the drain on 2 people who aren't putting on the shirts? And for what it's worth, I do think that the communications out of Watford FC this year so far, or season, has been absolutely poor. How they thought that it would be sensible to release a statement from Gino Pozzo saying that his aim was to be challenging for promotion. That's backfired, but that's up there in writings and lights. And then for him to say about foremost Mendy to be the number 1 transfer target for the defence, knowing that he's never kicked a ball in England before, and it's a massive gamble. And look, he's struggled at Millwall away. No fault of his own. He's played at right back and he's a centre back. I felt terribly sorry for him. I was in the away end that day, and you could just see how uncomfortable he was. Like he got shoved under a bus basically that day, and he's been made a bit of a scapegoat since. And look, I understand that he has had personal problems off the field, and he's obviously gone back to France for a small period. Who knows if he's in and around the training ground or not? Whatever is said between fans and that, I'm sure the football club will post a picture of him tomorrow at the training ground. But the other one, Joe, as well, like we were talking earlier, Edo Kiembe is off to AFCON, so's Dumbia. That's a midfielder short. A midfielder who you would say, off the back of last season's performances, warranted a spot definitely on the bench, if not starting 11. Pierre Duomo, do you remember him? I saw yesterday on his Instagram, I think he's back in Belgium. So he's not even in and around the Watford squad. And I feel like we obviously don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know like what the players' attitude's like or how he's training. All we can just go off is he's not in and around the Watford squad, and not much is being said about him. But a really talented footballer, a lot of potential, seemed to like give us a little bit more of an edge last year and kept the ball flowing and the drop of a shoulder and winning interceptions and driving us up the pitch. That's the kind of midfielder we kind of need in and around this team. If not on the starting 11, definitely off the bench as an option. And yet we're bringing on like Musa Sissoko. Like that's another situation that's quite puzzling, isn't it?
Yeah, I really don't understand why Duomo's not been given a chance. He's been playing with the under 21s, is it?
Yeah.
And he's scored goals. He's put in man of the match performances, and looked really lively and yeah, really really disappointing that one. I think back to that Fulham away day last year where we had in the cup where he played really well up until the point he had to come off and he got injured. I think that was the last time we saw him, to be honest, in a game. But I kind of think to the stats that he had at Watford when he was playing, I think he had like the highest number of interceptions in a game over all of our midfielders when he was barely playing. You can see that he's really good at winning the ball back and he's really good at wanting to drive forward with the ball. It's exactly probably the type of player that Javi wants in the team at the moment. But for some reason, obviously I just saw that comment come up. Apparently he's left his agent. So the club have decided to, by the sound of it, freeze him out. Who knows? I mean, obviously, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and there's probably a lot. In fact, there's a lot of players, isn't there, over the last few weeks? We've heard about changing agents, haven't we? Vata, Loser. There seems to be a bit of a merry-go-round with agents at the moment. But yeah, he's definitely one I'm really disappointed about, because if I had my way and I was picking my matchday squad, he would 100% be on my bench at least every game at the moment, if not starting.
Another one that's a bit puzzling for me as well. I know we've probably gone massively off topic here. And Mark's just said it now about Mendy, and Mendy's too short. Supposedly, Javi likes quite big midfielders, doesn't he? So that's why he's not going to look in. But we've only kept one clean sheet in like a very, very long time. And that one clean sheet was when we was playing Mendy in midfield. I don't get why he's not playing. I don't get why when Kipianu needs a bit of a rest and needs to come out of the team, he's the ideal replacement. Some might argue that he needs to be playing ahead of Kipianu. And yet he's been featured on the bench the last few games, but still not getting a look in. A game away at Wrexham when you're looking to hold on to a lead, maybe bring on a defensive midfielder that actually knows how to defend, and not a Musa Sissoko that comes on and just points at players and going, no, you need to be marking him. Mendy would actually get involved. Another puzzling situation.
Yeah, from what I've seen of him, he's fantastic. He's just like that calming presence in midfield. Like obviously we know
Nippy midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, you want someone that's just going to kind of just steady things up in midfield. We know Loser likes to go forward a bit more, which is why he's obviously scored a lot more, and he's been doing a lot in and around the opposition box this year, as opposed to kind of sitting deeper in midfield. So yeah, Mendy's that perfect player just to have there, just to hold things and do kind of the things like Loser can't be everywhere. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I think for me, obviously I didn't see him over the full 90 yesterday, so I can't comment. But I thought against from Preston onwards, he looks really tired. He looks tired in that midfield. He's doing a lot. And I think, I don't want him to be rested, but I do think he just needs someone in midfield to give him a bit more help. But yeah, actually, do you know what? That's another interesting one, because obviously we've had. I'm going to butcher his name now. Nabizadas. Nabizada.
Yeah,
That's it. He's obviously just signed a professional contract. And I saw Javi talking about him the other day briefly in his press conference. Is he going to come into the mix now? obviously with Kayembe gone, is that going to be a surprise now inclusion on match days to fill the Doumbia and Kayembe spots? Like, I can just see like some real random inclusions potentially over this next, I don't know, 6 weeks. Is it 6 weeks the tournament?
Mm. Yeah, he travelled with the matchday squad yesterday. I saw there was a picture of him on the pitch walking out with the rest of the teammates. He is in and around the first team, been training with them quite a lot. So I think it's a good shout that we will probably see him involved on the bench, especially with two players short in Kiembe and Doumbia. And he's obviously an offensive attacker. He could maybe bring a bit more of an attacking edge maybe off the bench, especially when we haven't got out and out wingers on the bench other than Irukunda. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we actually do. I know 5-year deal was it? Maybe Joe he signed.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, another long-term contract.
Yeah. So with the whole agent talks at the moment, Joe, like I don't think it's a good thing for Watford Football Club. That just says to me that players want to move on. They're just changing agents because they know that they can probably help them get out of Watford, and it's a shame when you look at the players and it's obviously Imran loser, and you knew he was going to probably be off towards the end of the season. But seeing Rocco Vatta's changed his agent as well, and obviously we've seen rumours that Pierre Duomo's changed his agent as well. So, but he's not even getting a look in either. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty on and off the pitch at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting second half of the season. Do you know what? It could actually be a really, for me, interesting January because, it wouldn't shock me if a couple of players were subject to bids. Obviously, the fact that Vatt is injured and he's out, I think, is it beyond February that Vatt is out for? I think they're looking at March, isn't it, that he's going to be back?
I read a interview the other day, and they actually said that Rocco Vatta's ahead of schedule. But again, I don't want him to be rushed back like we've said about Georgie Chapadassi. So he'll definitely be back before the end of the season. It's just when.
Well, the only concern is that I know that obviously Palace are heavily interested from what I've been told, and
Fulham.
And Fulham as well, yeah. And when you kind of think Palace are losing people to AFCON as well, the January window, I've seen that Palace are sniffing. They're looking to strengthen in January because the squad is thin at the moment, and obviously they're noticing that they need to get people through the door. If Vatta was to be back like middle of February, potentially, could they sign him? Maybe. Ahead of like the summer when apparently they were wanting to get him, possibly. We're missing we're missing important people at the moment, and like Mark said about Vatta and Barr being injured, and then you've got people that are being frozen out and people that aren't good enough. I remember sitting at the start of the season when we did our prediction podcast for the season. We were really excited about the squad that we had and the fact that there was a lot of depth. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it's kind of got really thin, and it's a real concern because you're kind of sitting there on match days now, and before at the start of the season, you'd be like, "Oh well, how's this person going to get in? How's that person going to get in?" I remember sitting at the League Cup game and thinking, "Oh, we've actually got like we've got a squad big enough to kind of rotate and have like a second 11." Like there was that kind of talk at the beginning of the season. But it's it's a real worry, and I'm going to be interested to see what happens in January, because I do think there potentially are going to be loans cut short. I do think potentially maybe one or two might head out the door. So we're going to need to strengthen, and I just hope that we're not going to be losing players. First 10 days of the window, and then we're scratching around, going, well, who's coming in? Seeing rumor after rumor after rumor. every other day, and then we get to the last 3 days of the window and we go, oh, well, we've got no one in through the door, and then transfer deadline day comes and we've signed 3 shite players. We're just sitting here then at the beginning of February doing a podcast and going, oh, well, this is going to be a really interesting end to the season now, because we've not strengthened the right way and we've not got a squad good enough to go forward. It just seems, Iran Kunda's actually another one. He's totally off the boil at the moment. I can't help but feel that this season, as much as I really want us to go somewhere, this has just got a complete mid-table feel about it.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like we're nowhere near to be ready for fighting for anything this season. I feel like we've started to build for like next season and maybe the season after, because I feel like we've got a good squad growing, but then you have to take individuals out of that, like a loser and Chakvedasi, who will potentially not be there next season. But without those 2 players, I feel like we've got a decent squad building, and I feel like the team we've got now is a bit too young to fight for anything more than maybe a mid-table finish. I don't think we've got any cutting edge about us to try and see off games and win games that we've dropped points in, like the Prestons, Bristol City, Sheffield Wednesday. We haven't got that cutting edge. We haven't got that, I don't know, clinicalness about us. So I just feel like this team now is maybe 2 seasons too early. Like in like maybe a few years down the line, I think it would be a really strong championship team. At the moment, it's just full of potential.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you just have to look at situations like, I'll just take the forward line, for example. We that season under Slavisa, we're sitting there going, oh, well, who's going to start today? Is it going to be Dini? Is it going to be Igalo? Is it going to be Matty Vidra? We had 3 strikers that were scoring truckload of goals, and it didn't matter who was starting with one another. They all knew how to play with each other. They all knew what one another needed up front in terms of the type of ball, the type of player, the type of support. But then now we've got, as Mark's put there, we've got Dumbia, we've got Curran Garden, we've got Semedo. You're starting with Dumbia and Curran Garden. No, I've really tried to stick up for him, Curran Garden. I know he scored 2 goals against Norwich last Saturday, but he just doesn't. He's just not doing enough around the pitch at the moment. Like Tuesday night, he was dreadful, absolutely dreadful. Like, it was really poor. We just need better players. And I don't know. I genuinely don't know how we get them, if I'm being honest. I'm not starting some, and I don't want people to jump on this. I'm not starting again some Pozo out thing again, but it all links back to the owners, and what we're doing as a football club isn't going to change unless these owners aren't here. So while these owners are here, we are going to keep signing the Semedos, the Curran Guards, the Kayembes, the odd decent player that's got championship experience like Bola on a free transfer. We aren't going to go out. We aren't going to spend some decent money like 2.5 million on Kiefer Moore. We're not going to spend 3.5 million on Lewis O'Brien, like Wrexham have done. We're not going to do that, because that's not what the Pozos do. We see these people come up in transfer windows, people being offered a way out of other clubs, and you go, you know what, they'd be great at Watford. I'll take Matty Grimes, for example, at Coventry, went to Coventry from Swansea. I love Matty Grimes. He's a great player. He's got the determination, he's got the leadership, and he's brilliant in midfield. I would have snapped him up in a heartbeat from Swansea, but no, that's not what the Pozos want. What we want as fans and what they want as a business are two completely different things, and the two don't align, unfortunately. So we've just got to we've just got to support what we've got, hope that it improves quickly, and what does stay, each transfer window and what comes in, we've just got to hope that there is going to be at some point some experience and that they can improve.
Oh God, yeah, let's hope so. Before we wrap it up, will we talk a little bit about Javi Gracia? I've seen a lot on social media lately, and I feel like there's one side of the fan base that are pro Javi Gracia, and there's another portion of the fan base anti him. Where do you sit with it, Joe? Or where do you sit in amongst that?
Do you know what? I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to say I'm neither. I'm not Javi in and I'm not Javi out. I love the guy because of what he did for the club before. Regardless of what happens, and if it was to all go south and he was to it would just all blow up in his face, that wouldn't, my opinion towards him wouldn't change. He led us to a cup final and a highest ever Premier League finish. Nothing's going to change that. It's going to just, for me, just be a shame that it had to end that way, if it does end that way. But what I hope is that he's saying to the owners behind the scenes at the moment that he needs some people, some players to come in. And I hope that he's given the resources to maybe get those players. If he's given some resources in January to do something, then potentially I'll have an opinion. But at the moment, while he's inherited a squad and it's not one that he wanted, he's asked to come in and do a job with a team that he's not picked, and he doesn't really know any of these players too well. I can't really have a judgment on him if I'm being completely honest. But I think, he is on the training ground with them every week. I do think that he has to take some ownership to certainly the formations and styles that he's playing at the moment. I do think they are a little bit questionable at times, and I am questioning the substitutions that he's making in games at times. I do think that he's making some silly substitutions, like last week against Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know why he was waiting to make substitutions. It wasn't, in other games he's been quick to use the 5 subs, and I think last Tuesday was a game that needed it, because it needed something to liven us up a little bit, and I don't think we had that cutting edge, and I think it took a long time for us to sort of wake up, so to speak. But yeah, I think, I do love the guy. I will always love the guy, and I hope it doesn't end badly. But if something doesn't change, then I can't help but feel that, I don't know, maybe, I don't know about you, but when would you think is enough's enough? Because obviously Gino will be looking at the table, and he will be looking at what he said at the start of the season. And if Watford aren't fighting for that, do you think maybe come mid-February, early March, if the club if they're still kind of, I don't know, they're at the moment, 3-4 points behind the playoffs, I think it is at the moment. If they're still there and thereabouts, do you think that he'll pull the trigger and go, I need someone who's actually going to get us that next step further?
I don't know. Gino does what Gino wants. And he's no longer living in the country either, so he's obviously observing from Italy. It's a difficult question to answer. When's the next international break?
End of Feb, yeah.
I hope that he just sticks with Javi Gracia. I'm fed up of chopping and changing. We've said this all the time. I don't think the managers are the issues, and we've said about this before, and I don't think the players are the issues. The issues are how the football club is run from top to bottom. And I feel you could hire the best manager in the world and they'd come in and they'd have exactly the same issues. Currently, Melanie mentioned it earlier, Javi Gracia is working with a squad that was put together for Paolo Pezzolano. It's not been put together for Javi Gracia. So if we could maybe look to give him a couple of players in January, I'm not asking for like full scale changes. Just add one or two decent players, first team players, not squad players, first team players that can elevate this team to the next level to try and actually get a bit of consistency. We're not conceding first. We can win back to back games. We can keep clean sheets. Then we can start to see a bit of trajectory and we can start to move up the table. I think that's all we need. I think at the moment, we've got a very inexperienced squad. And I feel like some experienced players aren't helping them out. When I'm going to name Musa Sissoko, for example, not helping out, not leading from examples, not putting the arm around the youngsters and helping them get over the line. And then I feel like Javi Gracia, he's came into a difficult situation where he's been held very highly by Watford fans, and I feel like he's maybe a bit too scared to try something too different because he doesn't want to damage that reputation. But by not doing that, I feel like that's where we've got the anti-Javi fans at the moment because they're wanting us to change it a little bit more. They know that we've got a talented squad and we can be doing better with a pool of players. But I feel like Javi's came in and look, I think we've got one defeat in 8 games and that can't be overlooked. Yes, there's fans out there that will look at performances over results. And yes, we should have more points on the board. But I'm looking at that going, it is slightly improved than Pezzolano. I'll ask this question, Joe, to you. Are you more entertained under watching this Watford team under Javi Gracia, or were you more entertained under Paolo Pezzolano?
I'm more entertained now. Definitely more
same.
entertained now. I like. There's no doubt about that. You could sense there was a level of where it was. You could sense the toxic environment under Pezzolano, whereas you
We
can't
weren't
sense.
taking shots under him either, were we?
No, you're right, and I think for me, I think you can just notice there's a completely different feel about turning up at a game now. So that's different. So yeah, I'm more entertained. I'm going to start a little rumor here,
Ooh.
yeah, I like starting rumors. Well,
Is it about Cameron or Mike?
no, it's
Because I
not.
really
No,
like those rumours. Oh,
it's not. Unfortunately, could you see? And I'm only saying this because he's barely played where he's moved to in the summer. But could you see Javi Gracia potentially asking Abdoulaye Doucouré to come back to Watford in January to give him someone who he knows, who's got experience, someone who's got that. I'd say he's probably good enough, more than good enough at 32 years. Well, he's going to be 33 on the 1st of January. So he's going to be another year older. But at 33, I still think he could do a job in the Championship. He's barely played in the Saudi League since that move. He's only made 5 appearances all season. He's not really doing anything out there. And I'm imagining he probably, he's enjoying the pay packet, but he probably wants to be playing football. Could you maybe see that move coming off?
he's obviously tied into a contract. I don't think Watford would want to pay a transfer fee to try and get him out of that contract. If there's a possibility where he could come over, I would snap your hand off. I think he's better than Musa Sissoko. I think he would be ahead of Cipriano. But then they're totally different players, aren't they? Doucouré is more of a more advanced midfielder. He's box to box, isn't he? Cipriano was pretty brought in to be that enforcer, and I don't think it's worked out fully for Cipriano yet. But I'm not writing him off. I think he stepped up a league, and the quality from League One to Championship it's huge, and that's why you kept seeing Rotherham doing the bounces between promotion and relegation because they struggle to compete in a Championship, and I think that would be the same if Peterborough came up as well. So I'm not writing off Cipriano. I think he's a good player. He just needs more time to adjust. But Doucouré, I would have him in if he would have to be willing to take a massive wage cut.
Of course,
But
yeah,
if all things are aligned, then yeah, I would more than happily go. Ian says he's going to start up a GoFundMe page. But you know one's going to come, Joe. You know what transfer's going to happen. And it doesn't even need to wait until January. It could happen now. It could happen next week. We had the guy in to assess his fitness over summer. He got released from Nottingham Forest. You see where I'm going, everyone? He's had 2 spells at the club. You not got it yet? Mr. Emmanuel Dennis for the 3rd time. We need a striker, don't we, Joe? Come on.
Oh dear! Do you know what? It's either gonna be that, or it's gonna be Bio coming back from Udinese.
No, I'll tell you what. Who would you prefer, Baku Bio or Emmanuel Dennis?
God, rather Mike.
If you could invite one to your Christmas dinner, which one would it be?
Well, do you know what? Actually, just because I know Vacuum Bio's got good banter, I'd have him.
Yeah, you got to have a crow, don't you? I don't know. See, Emmanuel Dennis is like Marmite, isn't he? I liked him in his first spell. I weren't massive of an in on his second spell. Took him absolutely ages to get fit. By the time we sign him, he'll be fit enough for maybe next September.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Emmanuel Bio. That's quite.
I do like him. He's probably playing somewhere, isn't he, Emmanuel Bio?
Yeah,
but yeah, no, that was a good shout.
But just a quick mention though, because I know this was obviously we have gone slightly off key. The goals
we went off key on the second question tonight.
Yeah, we did. But the goals were fantastic yesterday, and it was great again to show the desire to come back in a game. Obviously, we're behind. There's no team in the Championship that is as good as us in terms of being able to come from behind. I think that's now 20 points from losing positions, which is still the best in the country. Which is we're good for something, but when you look at how many points we have got in the league, that 29 points we're on, I think in the league overall, 20 points of that is from losing positions, which is appalling. Really, like that's far too many. I mean, it is great that we've got that many points, but I'd rather us have 25 points from winning positions. We need to be. Whether it's going to happen in these next 3 games, as I said, it's going to be tough. Who knows? But yeah, a good point yesterday, and hopefully we can build on it for Stoke next week.
No, definitely. And do you know what else we're very good at, Joe?
Oh, go on! I feel like there's a joke coming here.
Oh, it might be. We're very good at wearing a special edition, limited edition, 1 shirt only game. That blue Elton John shirt's getting out quite a lot. Was that the 3rd appearance? I think they're getting away with it because they can't use the branded Elton John. You can't have the E's on it, so they've changed it to Kelme. But they've kind of fleeced us a little bit here, haven't they?
Yeah, it's and I was actually thinking it's probably going to get worn at Hull as well, because Hull wear black, and obviously there's probably going to be a bit of a clash with they'll find something on the home kit, and then the away kit we wear is probably going to be a concern. So we're probably going to be wearing blue and white at Hull as well. So yeah, we're probably going to see it in 2 or 3 weeks away at Hull City.
Well, if we keep wearing it, then surely the price should drop, really.
Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I did go in the club shop the other day and it was still 76 quid.
Bloody hell. Yeah, I went in there the other day, like with Christmas approaching. And Melanie, thank you for your comment about my lovely tree behind me. I would show you a zoomed up footage of it, but my daughter started helping us, and it's not as good close up. It looks amazing from distance, but yeah, there's Joe, you're probably the same. McDonald's at the moment, where you get a Happy Meal, you get those little like Christmas decoration elves. I've got about 30 on that fucking tree.
I can see little things in there. It's
there's loads, but yeah. I'm trying to hide around the back, but then when you hide around the back and you open the curtains, that's all the neighbours see. Oh dear.
Interesting choice of
So,
decorations, I think.
yeah, they're like, oh, they've got a lovely household in there. They've only decorated their tree with the McDonald's decorations. Poor family. But yeah, I think we'll probably wrap it up there. We need to chat about our Christmas special, Joe, in the WhatsApp group as well, because Christmas is fast approaching. We've not done any preparations for a Christmas special. We don't even know who's available. Well, we'll tell you who's available now. It'll be me and Joe, because everyone else has bailed. So yeah, we'll probably be back soon. If it's in this week or the start of next week or at the weekend, we'll sort something out for you. So there will be a Christmas special coming, everyone. But yeah, I think we'll look to probably wrap it up there. That's another episode of the Voices of Vic done. So thank you everyone for watching on YouTube tonight. Really appreciate it. Sorry we've not read out the comments. There's absolutely loads coming in tonight, so really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe. And for all our audio listeners as well, make sure you follow and drop us a review between the Wrexham, Sheffield Wednesday or Javi Gracia. It's been a full week of twists, and maybe, just maybe, Watford can turn a Disney Christmas miracle next time round. So we'll see you next time. Come on, you all.